Hello, I'm Shirley Buchan. Welcome to Comox Valley Unitarian Fellowship. We welcome you, whoever you are, whatever your faith or philosophy, whatever your background, whomever you love, you are welcome here. We respectfully acknowledge that we meet on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nations. Do not fear agitation, for agitation is the rhythm of life itself. To be put into motion, to be stirred. Do not fear the movements that decenter what you always thought permanent. You carry within the center of your understanding, the compass to show you the way.
Carry with you the love that will hold you, the vision that will guide you, the relationships to all beings, and the world that will ground you. Go in peace and in gentle agitation to stir this world to the side of love. By Tanya Marquez.
Starting with verse 2, how can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roar, I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? My eyes look up, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day my pathway clears. Since first I learned to love it, a perfect peace restores my soul, a fountain ever springing. All things are mine since I am loved. How can I keep from singing?
March's theme, adversity and courage. I love those who smile in trouble. Leonardo da Vinci.
The Fearless Octopus, a story of courage by Charlotte Christie, illustrated by Marcella Cauldron. I live in the ocean. My name is Odell, and I have a story that I'd like to tell. So snuggle up tight and listen to me. I'll tell you a tale from the depths of the sea. One day, I was strolling along the seabed when a terrible shadow passed over my head. The beautiful day was suddenly dark, and I thought I saw fins and big teeth like a shark. I can move speedily by squirting out water. It makes me go faster than really I oughta. So off I zoomed, quickly, much faster than fast, but the shark kept beside me. I couldn't get past.
Oh no.
As well as quick travel, I'm good at disguises. I like to hide under rocks and give fish surprises. I can change my color and hide in plain view, but the shark wasn't fooled. Oh, what can I do? I hid under a rock. I climbed inside a shell. I covered my eyes. I cried, I'm not Odell. But no matter how hard I tried to escape, the shark just looked on, a big menacing shape. So finally, warily and going so slow, I swam up to the shark. I just had to know if he wanted to eat me or whether he'd spare me. I knew I must ask him, although he had scared me. I got closer and closer. He seemed bigger and bigger, but his fin looked quite strange, and I just couldn't figure where his big teeth had gone, why his belly was black. What is this whirring thing? And those men on his back? And as I crept closer, it all became clear. It wasn't a shark. I had nothing to fear. It was a boat with some sailors who were waving at me, and I was safe after all in this nice bit of sea. I waved back at the sailors and jetted away, carefree and happy for the rest of the day. I splashed and I played. I danced with a clam. I laughed and I shouted, how clever I am. If I'd been too nervous to swim up to that shark, I'd still be alone, being scared in the dark. But instead, I'm here playing, so please do take note. Be brave, because sometimes a shark is just a boat. Our work in these dark times is to be warriors for the human spirit. Margaret Wheatley and Aimee Mullins both challenge us to be warriors.
Until we are tested, we don't know what we are made of. Aimee Mullins.
All you really need is one person to show you the epiphany of your own power. If you can open a door for someone at a crucial moment, you are teaching them to open doors for themselves. Aimee Mullins.
We give a great gift to another human being when we can create conditions for them to discover their best human qualities. Margaret Wheatley.
Aimee Mullins was born July 20th, 1975. She is an American athlete, actress, and fashion model. She was born with a medical condition that resulted in the amputation of both of her lower legs. She competed against able-bodied athletes in National Collegiate Athletics Association events and competed in the Paralympics in 1996 in Atlanta. In 1999, she began modeling, and in 2002, she began an acting career.
I'd like to share with you a discovery that I made A few months ago, while writing an article for Italian Wired, I always keep my thesaurus handy whenever I'm writing anything, but I'd already finished editing the piece, and I realized that I had never once in my life looked up the word disabled to see what I'd find. Let me read you the entry. Disabled, adjective. Crippled, helpless. Useless, wrecked. Stalled, maimed, wounded, mangled, lame, mutilated, run down, worn out, weakened, impotent, castrated, paralyzed, handicapped, senile, decrepit, laid up, done for, done in, cracked up, counted out. See also hurt, useless, and weak. Antonyms: healthy, strong, capable. I was reading this list out loud to a friend, and at first was laughing. It was so ludicrous. But I had just gotten past mangled, and my voice broke, and I had to stop and collect myself from the emotional shock and impact that the assault from these words unleashed. And of course, this is my raggedy old thesaurus, so I'm thinking this must be an ancient print date, right? But in fact, the print date was the early 1980s, when I would have been starting primary school and forming an understanding of myself outside the family unit and as related to the other kids in the world around me. And needless to say, thank God I wasn't using a thesaurus back then. I mean, from this entry, it would seem that I was born into a world that perceived someone like me to have nothing positive whatsoever going for them, when in fact today, I'm celebrated for the opportunities and adventures my life have procured. So I immediately went to look up the 2009 online edition, expecting to find a revision worth noting. Here's the updated version of this entry. Unfortunately, it's not much better. I find the last two words under near antonyms particularly unsettling: whole and wholesome. So it's not just about the words. It's what we believe about people when we name them with these words. It's about the values behind the words and how we construct those values. Our language affects our thinking and how we view the world and how we view other people. In fact, many ancient societies, including the Greeks and the Romans, believed that to utter a curse verbally was so powerful because to say the thing out loud brought it into existence. So what reality do we want to call into existence? A person who is limited or a person who's empowered? By casually doing something as simple as naming a person a child, we might be putting lids and casting shadows on their power. Wouldn't we want to open doors for them instead? One such person who opened doors for me was my childhood doctor at the A.I. DuPont Institute in Wilmington, Delaware. His name is Dr. Pizzutillo, an Italian-American whose name apparently was too difficult for most Americans to pronounce, so he went by Dr. P. And Dr. P always wore really colorful bow ties and had the very perfect disposition to work with children. I loved almost everything about my time spent at this hospital, with the exception of my physical therapy sessions. I had to do what seemed like innumerable repetitions of exercises with these thick, elastic bands, different colors, to help build up my leg muscles. And I hated these bands more than anything. I hated them, had names for them, I hated them. And, I was already bargaining as a 5-year-old child with Dr. P to try to get out of doing these exercises, unsuccessfully, of course. And one day, he came in to my session, exhaustive and unforgiving, these sessions. And he said to me, "Wow, Aimee, you are such a strong and powerful little girl. I think you're going to break one of those bands. When you do break it, I'm going to give you $100. Now, of course, this was a simple ploy on Dr. P's part to get me to do the exercises I didn't want to do before the prospect of being the richest 5-year-old in the second floor ward. But what he effectively did for me was reshape an awful daily occurrence into a new and promising experience for me. And I have to wonder today to what extent his vision and his declaration of me as a strong and powerful little girl shaped my own view of myself as an inherently strong, powerful, and athletic person well into the future. This is an example of how adults in positions of power can ignite the power of a child. But in the previous instances of those thesaurus entries, our language isn't allowing us to evolve into the reality that we would all want. The possibility of an individual to see themselves as capable. Our language hasn't caught up with the changes in our society, many of which have been brought about by technology. Certainly from a medical standpoint, my legs, laser surgery for vision impairment, titanium knees and hip replacements for aging bodies that are allowing people to more fully engage with their abilities and move beyond the limits that nature has imposed on them. Not to mention social networking platforms. It allows people to self-identify, to claim their own descriptions of themselves so they can go align with global groups of their own choosing. So perhaps technology is revealing more clearly to us now what has always been a truth, that everyone has something rare and powerful to offer our society, and that the human ability to adapt is our greatest asset. A human ability to adapt. It's an interesting thing because people have continually wanted to talk to me about overcoming adversity. And I'm going to make an admission, this phrase never sat right with me. And I always felt uneasy trying to answer people's questions about it. And I think I'm starting to figure out why. Implicit in this phrase of overcoming adversity is the idea that success or happiness is about emerging on the other side of a challenging experience unscathed or unmarked by the experience. As if my successes in life have come about from an ability to sidestep or circumnavigate the presumed pitfalls of a life with prosthetics or what other people perceive as my disability. But in fact, we are changed. We are marked, of course, by a challenge, whether physically, emotionally, or both. And I'm going to suggest that this is a good thing. Adversity isn't an obstacle that we need to get around in order to resume living our life. It's part of our life. And I tend to think of it like my shadow. Sometimes I see a lot of it, sometimes there's very little, but it's always with me. Now, certainly, I'm not trying to diminish the impact, the weight of a person's struggle. There is adversity and challenge in life, and it's all very real and relative to every single person. But the question isn't whether or not you're going to meet adversity, but how you're going to meet it. So our responsibility is not simply shielding those we care for from adversity, but preparing them to meet it well. And we do a disservice to our kids when we make them feel that they're not equipped to adapt. There's an important difference and distinction between the objective medical fact of my being an amputee and the subjective societal opinion of whether or not I'm disabled. And truthfully, the only real and consistent disability I've had to confront is the world ever thinking that I could be described by those definitions. In our desire to protect those we care about by giving them the cold, hard truth about their medical prognosis, or indeed a prognosis on the expected quality of their life, we have to make sure that we don't put the first brick in a wall that will actually disable someone. Perhaps The existing model of only looking at what is broken in you and how do we fix it serves to be more disabling to the individual than the pathology itself. By not treating the wholeness of a person, by not acknowledging their potency, we are creating another ill on top of whatever natural struggle they might have. We are effectively grading someone's worth to our community. So we need to see through the pathology and into the range of human capability. And most importantly, there's a partnership between those perceived deficiencies and our greatest creative ability. So it's not about devaluing or negating these more trying times as something we want to avoid or sweep under the rug, but instead to find those opportunities wrapped in the adversity. So maybe the idea I want to put out there is not so much overcoming adversity as it is opening ourselves up to it, embracing it, grappling with it, to use a wrestling term, maybe even dancing with it. And perhaps if we see adversity as natural, consistent, and useful, we're less burdened by the presence of it. This year we celebrate the 200th birthday of Charles Darwin, and it was 150 years ago when writing about evolution that Darwin illustrated, I think, a truth about the human character. To paraphrase, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor is it the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. Conflict is the genesis of creation. From Darwin's work, amongst others, we can recognize that the human ability to survive and flourish is driven by the struggle of the human spirit through conflict into transformation. So again, transformation, adaptation is our greatest human skill. And perhaps, until we're tested, we don't know what we're made of. Maybe that's what adversity gives us, a sense of self, a sense of our own power. So we can give ourselves a gift. We can reimagine adversity as something more than just tough times. Maybe we can see it as change. Adversity is just change that we haven't adapted ourselves to yet. I think the greatest adversity that we've created for ourselves is this idea of normalcy. Who's normal? There's no normal. There's common. There's typical. There's no normal. And would you want to meet that poor beige person if they existed? I don't think so. If we can change this paradigm from one of achieving normalcy to one of possibility or potency, to be even a little bit more dangerous, we can release the power of so many more children and invite them to engage their rare and valuable abilities with the community. Anthropologists tell us that the one thing we as humans have always required of our community members is to be of use, to be able to contribute. There's evidence that Neanderthals, 60,000 years ago, carried their elderly and those with serious physical injury. And perhaps it's because the life experience of survival of these people proved of value to the community. They didn't view these people as broken and useless. They were seen as rare and valuable. A few years ago, I was in a food market in the town where I grew up, in that red zone in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I was standing over a bushel of tomatoes. It was summertime. I had shorts on. I hear this guy, his voice behind me, say, "Well, if it isn't Aimee Mullins." And I turn around, and it's this older man. I have no idea who he is. And I said, "I'm sorry, sir. Have we met? I don't remember meeting you." He said, "Well, you wouldn't remember meeting me. I mean, when we met, I was delivering you from your mother's womb." Oh, that guy. But of course, actually, it did click. This man was Dr. Keene, a man that I had only known about through my mother's stories of that day. because, of course, typical fashion, I arrived late for my birthday by 2 weeks, and so my mother's prenatal physician had gone on vacation. So the man who delivered me was a complete stranger to my parents. And because I was born without the fibula bones and had feet turned in and a few toes in this foot and a few toes in that, he had to be the bearer, the stranger had to be the bearer of bad news. He said to me, I had to give this prognosis to your parents that you would never walk and you would never have the kind of mobility that other kids have or any kind of life of independence, and you've been making a liar out of me ever since. The extraordinary thing is that he said he had saved newspaper clippings throughout my whole childhood, whether winning a second grade spelling bee, marching with the Girl Scouts, the Halloween parade, winning my college scholarship, or any of my sports victories. And he was using it and integrating it into teaching resident students, med students from Hahnemann Medical School and Hershey Medical School. And he called this part of the course the X Factor. It was the potential of the human will. No prognosis can account for how powerful this could be as a determinant in the quality of someone's life. And Dr. Keene went on to tell me that, he said, in my experience, unless repeatedly told otherwise, and even if given a modicum of support, if left to their own devices, a child will achieve. See, Dr. Keene made that shift in thinking. He understood that there's a difference between the medical condition and what someone might do with it. And there's been a shift in my thinking over time, in that if you had asked me at 15 years old if I would have traded prosthetics for flesh and bone legs, I wouldn't have hesitated for a second. I aspired to that kind of normalcy back then. But if you ask me today, I'm not so sure. And it's because of the experiences I've had with them, not in spite of the experiences I've had with them. And perhaps this shift in me has happened because I've been exposed to more people who have opened doors for me than those who have put lids and cast shadows on me. See, all you really need is one person to show you the epiphany of your own power, and you're off. If you can hand somebody the key to their own power, the human spirit is so receptive. If you can do that and open a door for someone at a crucial moment, you are educating them in the best sense. You're teaching them to open doors for themselves. In fact, the exact meaning of the word educate comes from the root word educe. It means to bring forth what is within, to bring out potential. So again, which potential do we want to bring out? There was a case study done in 1960s Britain when they were moving from grammar schools to comprehensive schools. It's called the streaming trials. We call it tracking here in the States. It's separating students from A, B, C, D, and so on. And the A students get the tougher curriculum, the best teachers, etc. Well, they took over a 3-month period, D-level students, gave them A's, told them they were A's, told them they were bright, and at the end of this 3-month period, they were performing at A level. And of course, the heartbreaking flip side of this study is that they took the A students and told them they were D's. And that's what happened at the end of that 3-month period. Those who were still around in school, besides the people who had dropped out. This is a crucial part of this case study, was that the teachers were duped too. The teachers didn't know a switch had been made. They were simply told, these are the A students, these are the D students, and that's how they went about teaching them and treating them. So I think that the only true disability is a crushed spirit. A spirit that's been crushed doesn't have hope It doesn't see beauty. It no longer has our natural childlike curiosity and our innate ability to imagine. If instead we can bolster a human spirit to keep hope, to see beauty in themselves and others, to be curious and imaginative, then we are truly using our power well. When a spirit has those qualities, we are able to create new realities and new ways of being. I'd like to leave you with a poem by a 14th century Persian poet named Hafiz, that my friend Jacques d'Amboise told me about. And the poem is called "The God Who Only Knows 4 Words." Every child has known God, not the God of names, not the God of don'ts, but the God who only knows 4 words and keeps repeating them, saying, "Come, dance with me. Come, dance with me." Thank you.
You who are watching this at home, please join me in this song, "To Be a Pilgrim." You who would true valor see, let them come hither. One here will constant be, come wind, come weather. There is no discouragement shall make me once relent my first avowed intent to be a pilgrim. Whoso beset me round with dismal stories, do but themselves confound, my strength the more is. No lion can me fright, I'll with a giant fight, and I shall have the right to be a pilgrim. No word of foe or friend can daunt my spirit. I know I at the end will life inherit. Then fancies fly away, I'll not fear what they say. I'll labor night and day to be a pilgrim. What does it mean to you to be a pilgrim or a warrior for the human spirit?
When I play my violin, I make sure that I'm broadcasting a spirit that needs to be taken up, and that I just don't play notes. I'm playing music.
Neat. Who in your life encouraged you and opened a door for you when you were having a tough time?
During high school, I was a bit of a loner. I hung with my Unitarian fellowship, but the amazing high school teachers that I had who had doctorate degrees and women with doctorate degrees encouraged me to take science and Spanish and math and international relations, and without them, my life would have been less.
When in your life did a difficult experience lead to the discovery of courage you didn't know you had? I spent a good deal of my time in the last few years of my relationship with my partner when I was terrified of her deteriorating health, knowing that it would lead to her death. When the time came and she was in her last days and we knew she was, I discovered that the courage was there. It wasn't that difficult a challenge at all. It was like swimming up to the shark and finding it was only a boat. It is this fellowship's tradition to share our joys and concerns. We invite you to reflect on your joys and concerns in a moment of silence. We also acknowledge those joys and concerns that are unexpressed. Know that this fellowship cares for you. A litany of abundance.
We have so much. Regardless of personal circumstances, we all have riches of many different kinds. Let us consider them. Let us think on what we have to share. Let us aspire to be generous.
Whatever has been canceled, generosity has not been canceled.
From our abundance of laughter, happiness, and joy, may we share abundantly.
Laughter has not been canceled.
From our abundance of empathy, kindliness, and goodwill, may we share abundantly.
Empathy has not been canceled.
From our abundance of experience, learning, and wisdom, may we share abundantly.
Wisdom has not been canceled.
From our abundance of time, skills, and knowledge, may we share abundantly.
Skills have not been canceled.
From our abundance of worldly goods and financial resources, may we share abundantly. Out of this abundance, its breadth,
its variety, its wealth, may we share abundantly, and may we all be blessed by our gifts.
This litany was written by May Partridge, who lives a life of generosity.
In sharing our resources, there are several ways that you can do this online. You can donate online at our CVUF Canada Helps donation link. You can also find our pledge form on cvuf.ca 2020 pledge form. You can sign up for a pre-authorized debit by filling out the pre-authorized debit payment agreement on cvuf.ca as well. Contributions and 50% of the undesignated contributions go to the CVUF and its programs. The other 50% of undesignated contributions to June 2020 is going to the Kugamwe Cultural Society of the Comox First Nation as part of our Transforming Our World offering. CVUF can also be found online on the web at cvuf.ca. See our YouTube channel to catch our Sunday gatherings. YouTube and the link that you see on the screen. Also, watch for a CVUF Zoom meeting coming. Live broadcast of our Sunday gatherings is the goal.
Announcements. Cancellations. In light of the COVID-19 social distancing recommendation, the CVUF board is canceling in-person 4 p.m. community gatherings on Saturdays and Sundays until such time as the board votes otherwise. We will be monitoring the situation based on recommendations by the BC Medical Health Officer. We appreciate your understanding. Please check our website for further details. Watch for a pastoral letter with wonderful activity links from our part-time minister, Meg Roberts. About Us, our newsletter, is coming soon. The communicator has been sent to all fellowship members and friends wanting this publication. If you're not receiving our newsletter or weekly updates, please email Lorna Tutt.
cvofcoord@gmail.com. And
the people stayed home
and
and read books
and
listened
and
rested
and
exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced.
some met their shadows.
And the people began to think differently, and the people healed.
And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal.
And when the danger passed, and the people joined together again,
They grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed.
By Kitty O'Meara.
Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.